This is, I just would say that this is not a clapping congregation. But oh well.
No.
So we're addressing the concept that Circle's Edge is helping to make the world a happier place. And we are talking from the outlines from International CSL, and the outline for today was provided by Brian Akers from Columbia, Maryland, and Kathy and Jim are personal friends of Brian, so he provided the quotes. And I just want to say that, to me, before the movie came out, I always thought of religious science as the philosophy of shades of gray. But then I had to change my attitude. But the truth of the matter is, it is a philosophy of beliefs on a continuum rather than black and white or right or wrong or good or bad. It is the flow of the universe. And I believe, now I'm calling it the philosophy of the audacious. How dare we? How dare we think that we are God made manifest? How dare we think that we are an expression of the divine? How dare we? And how dare we not? We are that divine made manifest. And when we set an intention, we expect the universe to fulfill that intention for us. How dare we expect that universe to provide for us just exactly what we're asking? And how dare we not? Who do we think we are? God? Yes, we do. Then conversely, it is a philosophy of humility, because as it's true for me that I am God, how dare I think so? I also know that that's the truth for all things and everyone else. So it is neither black nor white. It is shades of gray. The audacity to know and believe that we are God, and the humility to know and believe that so is everyone else and everything else. I wanted to share with you a little story about my grandma, Hetty R. Now, I've talked a lot about Tiger, my mom, and what a character she was. But my grandma, Hetty R., set the bar high for audacity. She was telling me one time, it came up in conversation when I was younger, and she decided that she wanted a carpet for her living room. So she built a loom and wove a carpet. Wow. No kidding. Wow. And then she said, when I said, wow, to her, she said, well, there wasn't anything I didn't think I could do once I set my mind to it. How audacious. And my grandmother was a praying woman. So she understood the balance between taking the action and trusting in the unity and the universe to help her work those kinds of things out. There wasn't anything she didn't think she could do once she set her mind to it. And while we're not all of God, we're not the whole of God, God is certainly who and what we are, and we'll never be all that God is. We have access to all of God in whatever measure we're able to embody it. And when we understand the spiritual law, the law is the doer of the works. We release the need to see all avenues to our highest and best good. We don't have to figure it out, in other words, because we can be very limited in our thinking, but the universe is not. We invite ourselves to do what is ours to do with complete faith that whatever else is necessary, the universe will provide. Now, no matter how close it is or how far away it is, how big or how small, how simple or how complex, how important or unimportant it may be, it is being done by God in all of its infinite divinity. So, our prayers set in motion the vast depths and distances of God to converge upon us in perfect order. The law is the doer or the executor. This is a quote from Ernest Holmes. The law is the doer or executor of the will of the Spirit and has no choice of its own. It is the business of the law to reflect the images that the Spirit casts into it. And he continues, there is a divine principle, and what it does for us must do through us. Our part in the demonstration is to set the word in motion, thus compelling the law of subjectivity, the result or manifestation. Yesterday there was a Facebook page post. Some of you may have seen it. It was little kids, infants almost, discovering their own shadow. Did you see that? Oh, it was so funny. Little tiny tots walking down the street and all of a sudden seeing their shadow. And then trying to figure it out. Some of them touched it, some of them danced with it, some of them turned their back on it and then looked through their legs to see. It was hysterical. And don't we all have some sort of similarity to that? The waltzing with our shadow, the lack of understanding is the same sort of lack of understanding that we have, that we are God made manifest, and that whatever we say, whatever we believe, whatever we desire will show up for us. Just like our shadow is right with us, that divine power of the law is right with us. And just like little kids, we are so often flummoxed by the whole idea that we are God, and whatever we desire is going to show up for us. It's really hard for us to convince ourselves of that. We can't be willful in thinking that we can force the world to conform to us. Instead, we must be willing to release our expectations and know that God brings into our lives even greater things than our expectation and our imagination could have dreamed of. This whole election thing, I think, is such a powerful example of the way in which we participate in the world. It is out of integrity for me to pick a candidate and pray, oh God, please, please, please let blah, blah, blah be elected president. That's totally out of integrity. Because I don't know what is the greatest good. I can, however, in integrity, pray for the highest and best for this country. That the highest and best good of the divine, in all of its wisdom, is going to bring forth that one candidate that is going to supply this country and this world with the wisdom and the integrity that is necessary. And that will be done. It's not for me to make that choice, because as one group of people are praying for a candidate, the other group of people are praying for a candidate, and people say, well, now, this is what's wrong with the whole idea about prayer, is that how do we, who's going to pray, meh, 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 meh. The truth of the matter is, we can trust the universe, we can trust God, we can trust the divine to put it all together in amazing ways that we never could have anticipated. There was a quote that I wanted to share with you that just makes me laugh. And it says, if you want to reach your goals, you must reduce the size of your butt.
Oh.
Yeah. And that is the truth. When we step out in faith and we have high expectations for an outcome of good and allow the universe to do the job that the universe does so well, and reduce our butts, our yuck butts, that'll never happen. Yes, but blah, blah, blah. You know them. You know the yes butts. And I've always said, give the butts the boot. Our issue is not ever that we're not able to do anything, that we can't do something, that something is not going to happen. The issue is that we have very small expectations. That's really the problem. Not that we're incapable, not that we can't pull off these amazing acts and feats. The problem is that we have very small expectations because we are thinking that we have to do it all ourselves. That's not the truth. The truth is the law works for us in whatever way that we expect it to work. So when we have grand ideas and then we say, oh, but that'll never happen. That's the truth. It will never happen. I wanted to tell you a story about a young girl named Mackenzie Clare, who had wanted to be, as early as she could remember, as early as anyone could remember, Mackenzie wanted to be a model. And she'd get her hair brushed, and she'd walk up and down the red carpet, and she would pose, and she would model. And then when she was 10 years old, her family was in a car accident, and she became a paraplegic. And she was devastated because she felt that she had to give up her dream of being a model because nobody had ever heard of a model in a wheelchair. And her mother kept saying, oh, one day, on her prom night, she and her boyfriend were having dinner before the prom. And a photographer from across the room spotted her. And this photographer, whose name was Kier Ling, had been looking for a model for The Littlest Mermaid. Across the room, she saw this young girl who had red hair, who was beautiful. Just the model that she was looking for. She started across the room, and just as she was almost to the table, she noticed that this young girl was in a wheelchair. But she continued the walk. And she devoted herself then to creating ways that Mackenzie could be the model for the Littlest Mermaid. And she made it a family project. Her brother created a gown that allowed for the fins, and the mother had got involved with sewing the gown and putting shells on it. And from that dream that Mackenzie's mom wouldn't let her forget, she became the first model in a wheelchair. There have been a couple others now that have rolled the red carpet. And it seems that the style industry is now changing its concept of what is beautiful. And young women who are handicapped, young women who are a little rounder, young women of diverse ethnic backgrounds are now allowed to be models. Because the world has caught the dream. The world has come to the place to think that everyone is an expression of the divine. No matter how we look, what our ethnicity, our handicaps. And we can convince ourselves that what we desire is out of reach or impossible. As such, we'll experience distance and impossibility of our desire until we release those ideas and seek to know that there is a divine mind and body that shrinks all distance and makes all things possible with complete effortlessness. We must be mindful of what we convince ourselves. We must be mindful of what we convince ourselves, for that is the reality that we will ultimately experience. I know I hammer this home because it's like the shadow of children. It's so hard for us to get it on that deep, visceral level, to really get and understand that what we think is what we get, and our beliefs are what shows up in the world. And when we keep saying, oh yes, but, that's what shows up. Our jobs as expressions of the divine are to expand our possibilities, our willingness to step up in our greatness. That's our job. And we can all be who we desire, what we desire, and create a life that works for us, that makes us happy. from the inside out, not waiting for circumstances and situations to support us, but to allow the universe to support us and create for us what we absolutely are longing for. We need to find ourselves having the grace to know that something greater than us does the work at making our lives manifest. As co-creators, there comes a time when our divine blueprint must be acted upon, and we must entrust it to the expert of all design, God. Coming closer to the outer edges of the cosmos is as simple as accepting the possibility that the cosmos is alive within us. And when we embody what it means to be universal, we unlock the infinite potential of the universe. When we're bogged down with the responsibility of making things happen, we spend too much time in frustration and anguish about what we are not able to accomplish. When we realize that God is our greatest teammate and the spiritual law is always poised and ready to respond, we allow our time to be spent in the joyful work of accepting all of the good that God has to offer. There's no need to be concerned with distance, because our inner connection to God is our direct avenue to all the goodness of the world. To touch the deepest point within ourselves is to simultaneously brush our fingers along the edge of existence. How dare we be so audacious as to think we can create a beautiful life for ourselves, that we can be God made manifest. How dare we? How dare we not? So I invite you to hold your greatest expectancy that the entire universe is conspiring for your good, and act like it. The whole universe is conspiring for your good. So act like it. I love you all. Namaste. So I would invite the practitioners to stand. Now help me hold the consciousness of this community. Just want to remind you that practitioner Elisa will be in this room after the service, and if you have a special need for prayer, feel free to speak with her. Also, there's little sheets of paper that you can put a prayer request in. Be audacious enough to ask what you want. The universe will support you in that. So I invite you to turn within. I invite you to allow yourself to feel that internal expansiveness. To breathe in the richest and the deepest and the most powerful possibilities for yourself and your life. Dare to think greatness. Dare to be joyful. Dare to be well and vigorous and vital. Dare to laugh and dance and be in joy. Let the edges of your being expand to the universe, out beyond the infinite. Play with all that is. How amazing you are. How amazing God is. As loving you personally, supporting you personally, holding you up personally. Expand into all possibilities. There's no lack or limit to anything in the universe except our belief of all good that is our divine right, as it is the other 7.5 billion of us. There's no lack, there's no limit. Dance in it, sing in it, laugh in it, celebrate it. Celebrate yourself in it all. I see it for you, I feel it for you, I know it for you. And as I have done that, I know it for you to know the truth also. You are a God. Have the audacity to be that. Celebrate it. Claim it. And join with me in owning it as we say together, and so it is.